Hello and welcome. My name is Dennis Westman, your instructor this semester, and I wanted to take a moment to go over the first couple of sections in your textbook. So the way this will usually operate is that you'll grab your textbook and you'll watch this video, pausing me of course if you have to make notes or any kind of comments in the margins, and then continue playing me as we go throughout the chapter. Now these aren't meant to be full 20, 30, 40, 50-minute lectures. What I'm simply doing in these videos is simply trying to expose you to some of the highlights and the important parts of the textbook. It's still your responsibility to go through and read through the materials. Now this first video that I want to do in the section I want to talk about is in your textbook. It's under the Windows section and it's in the file management area, and it's called Managing Your Files. And if you're following along, the page number, and again I apologize because these page numbers are kind of strange, the page number that you'll be looking for is FM1, and it's going to look something like this: Managing Your Files. And so what I would like you to do is just follow along and let me talk a little bit about this section, and then we'll move on from there. Okay? So I'll give you a moment. Click pause if you need to get your book. Maybe I'll make some small talk. I would sing or play music, but that doesn't really help. Oh, you thought I was paused, didn't you? No, I'm just teasing. I'm not. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with the textbook and managing your files. Now, most of this textbook assumes you're using Windows 7. I suspect a lot of you are, but there may be some that use Windows XP, so you'll have to extrapolate the different commands for Windows XP, but you're going to find that a lot of that is going to be similar, but it may be slightly different. We'll just have to work with that as time goes on. Now the objectives of this section is to develop file management strategies, to explore files, folders, and libraries, to create, name, copy, move, and delete folders, copy, move, and delete files, and then finally to work with compressed files. And all of these are important because we're going to be dealing with a lot of files in our Access, in our database management systems class, and so it's very important that we have a really good grasp of that. Now let me just make a note here. This is a sophomore level class, so I'm assuming that you've already have some basic technology skills. You're already pretty comfortable with the Microsoft Office suite, maybe not so much with Access, but you've probably had at least a little bit exposure to Access. More than likely, and I believe this to be the case, that you were required to have computer applications before you took this class. So you should be pretty comfortable with the technology. But if you're not and you have any reservations or issues, you need to contact me, visit with me about the course so that we can make sure that this is the right fit for you. Now let's look on FM1. And again, that's just a header about this page, but let me just point out at the bottom of the page, the way this book is organized, and I really like this, it typically will have in here sections of folders that will tell you what exactly you need as far as data files for this section. And so you'll be able to look at each one of those usually, and that's what I use whenever I'm working through those as well, so I know exactly what to expect and what's needed. Now I like the next page, FM2 and 3, because it lays out a nice visual representation of what exactly is in the folder window. All the little icons on the left hand side, the areas like the recent folders and that sort of thing. I really like how that is organized. So I would take a moment to take a look at that. Now when they're talking about organizing files, and you'll excuse me while I'm doing this because I have to look down too and make sure that I'm covering those items, and so I'll try not to do it as often as I might in a class, but it'll probably look a little more distracting. Of course, now that I've said that, it's probably going to look even more distracting. But if you look on page FM4, it talks a little about what a file is, and then what a file is saved on, which is typically a hard disk. And then it gives an example, and I really like this. If you look at the bottom of the page, it gives an example of a tree with all the little branches and leaves and that sort of thing. And that is exactly how items are stored. You have folders, then you have other folders, then you have other folders, and then files within all those different folders. And that essentially is the system. Now, a computer version of that is on page FM5. So essentially that's the tree from 4, but now on page 5. Now, anytime you double-click and open folders, you're going to be exploring the windows. That's just double-clicking, open it up. That's discussed on page 6 and 7. And then the next couple of pages talks about just navigating through your different data files. And then we switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about managing the files and folders and maybe which folders you should create and that sort of thing. And it gives you step-by-step directions on how to exactly do that. So that's essentially covered on page 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then at the bottom of page 15 it also talks about naming your files. And then finally, at the bottom of page 17, it talks about working with compressed files. And you come across these sometimes. They'll look like the normal folder icon, and then it'll be like a zipper kind of running down the middle. And that's a zipped file or a compressed file. You typically double-click it to open it up. You can extract it, explore it, and take a look at the different files available in your zipped folders. And I was looking to see, yes, exactly. If you look on page 18, there's a little graphical example of a zipped folder there. I believe it's called Final Files. Now, I would encourage you to watch this video, maybe read through the book, make some notes, and maybe rewatch it. And I think that'll really help you when it comes time to work on the labs and ultimately work on homework assignments and finally the exam and projects. So take a moment to do that, and then I'll see you around. As always, if you have any questions or need assistance, please feel free to email me. You can use the email tool through Blackboard, which does a nice thing including putting the subject in the email, or you can post to the discussion forum, and I check that periodically, or maybe one of your fellow students might have an answer for you. Well, that's it for right now. Thank you, and have a great day.